Our advocacy for failed projects gets a huge slice of the pie. Isuko continues to suck our economy like a leech. We can only say that this budget is indeed staying the course, and that course is a big curse for Guyana. Mr. Speaker, budget after budget, we see money is being allocated for land titling and revision of the Amerindian Act. When will it be done? To cut a long story short, when will it be done? Yes, it will be us as the next government who will have to do that. Mr. Speaker, but the Honorable Minister forgot to mention, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Ashley Singh mentioned that some villages were given titles by this government, the PPP. But Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minister forgot to mention that some of those villages that he mentioned were previously granted titles by APNO AFC. One example was Yupukari's extension that APNU AFC granted previously, among others. And I could call it Tushaw if I get a chance now to call it Tushaw of Yupukari to come here and tell you that that is what happened, although you are saying no. Mr. Speaker, indeed, staying the course is ongoing for the PPP. However, the course is one to weaken the rights of the indigenous peoples. Mr. Speaker, the People's Progressive Party used its position as the government of Guyana to take over aspects of the control of Marudi mines from the indigenous people and small miners of the South Rupununi. Today, there is a People's Progressive Party group controlling the riches being gained from the area that was allocated by GGMC. This is staying the course to make the PPP's friends, families, and favorites hog the patrimony of Guyana.
Honorable member, to stay the course, you're going to have to get 5 minutes to conclude.
Thank you. Comrade Speaker, I do move that the honorable member be given 5 minutes to conclude his presentation.
Thank you, honorable member. You have 5 minutes to conclude.
Mr. Speaker, the indigenous village of Chinese Landing has been struggling for many years to regain control of Tasavini, a mineral-rich area of their title land that was being mined by a certain miner without their consent. Mr. Speaker, the Chinese Landing village appealed to the Inter-American Commission for Human Rights, and the commission agreed that there were some issues and some of the rights, many of the rights of the indigenous peoples were being affected. So, an order that corrective actions be taken. The PPP government has since ordered a cease order on all mining activities in the whole of Chinese Landing, although the village had only requested that cease order for mining operations be done in Tasavini. It must be noted that the indigenous peoples are allowed by law to do artisanal mining on their title lands. The move by the PPP's government to stop mining in the entire Chinese Landing is seen as a move to punish the Carib people of Chinese Landing for standing up for their rights. Also, the PPP government is now asking the ISCHR to withdraw precautionary measures granted regards to Chinese Landing. This government here has no regard for the indigenous people. You allow them, you make sure that they cannot get monies to survive on their own, from their own lands. And now you are pointing to allow or ask the ISCHR to step away from their defense. They must be left alone to take the bashing that you want to give them. Mr. Speaker, and to continue the rights of indigenous people, I wish to bring to the nation and all that the Petroleum Activities Bill recently passed by the PPP's slim majority in Parliament gives the Minister of Natural Resources, and by extension the PPP, supreme powers to identify areas of petroleum exploration, negotiate and allow such exploration and production in any part of Guyana. This act disregards any free prior informed consent by the affected communities. This act strikes against the fundamental rights of the indigenous peoples. On behalf of the indigenous peoples of Guyana, I ask that this act be repealed. Mr. Speaker, although monies have been allocated for the rich, okay, we're done with that. Mr. Speaker, there are some issues that are affecting indigenous people, and I will try to go through them in this short period of time. One, Amerindian Hostel in Georgetown. Patients have to find their own transport to go to the hospital. Just imagine, patients have to find their own transport to go to the hospital at our Amarin Hospital in Georgetown, and the minister is just a stone throw away. Meals are often in short supply. A rich country, and this is how we're treating our indigenous people. There is a need for a residential doctor to be on site. And in Region 9, there continues to be a shortage of cassava in the Rupununi. Cassava is the main staple of the Rupununi. And there were some interventions by the government, I must say, but it was not enough. In 1999, when I was the regional vice chairman, with the support of even the boss man in the house, we had lots and lots of cassava coming from Brazil, Manoa in Brazil. At that time, we asked for help from the PEP government and refused to give us help, but we got help. The stems were distributed according to the needs of the farmers. This was done to counteract the effects of the harsh El Nino season. Yes. The people of Region 9, after that, got back into production of cassava. And I want to use the opportunity to thank the people of Manoa in Brazil, who gave us this high-yielding cassava stems free of charge. And they said, I will talk about that another time. And now calling the common government to place some emphasis on the cassava crops in Brazil. Other crops are important, but at this moment, the cassava is most important for food security and the battle against hunger and destitution. Mr. Speaker, we had cases in Guyana where our children have been placed in situations where they had no way of defending themselves. And one of those ways was when a young indigenous child was raped and sodomized. Mr. Speaker, what we saw was the alleged perpetrator being given state protection and was allowed to walk free. By this episode,
Honorable
you can
member,
clearly see
I'll give you a minute to wrap up. You're already a couple of minutes over the 5 minutes.
justice for indigenous people. And the Madia disaster, what we notice is that at the end of it all, in a nutshell, everybody has got blamed, excepting the government of Guyana. The people who are directly involved were not blamed. The regional executive officer wasn't blamed. The minister of local government wasn't blamed. The minister of education wasn't blamed. The minister of labor wasn't blamed. These were the persons to be blamed for what happened there. Apparently, it was felt that indigenous lives do not matter. Mr. Speaker, and the compensation given, I would call it jokey compensation. Lives of indigenous children, or any child, is not $5 million. You're cheapening our lives. That's why at one time I said, take your feet. The people who must take their feet off the necks of the indigenous people.
I remember with that, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up totally.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. And now for the Honorable Member, Ms. Yvonne Pearson.